Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Institute of Hospitality London branch's webinar on revenue optimisation considerations for hotel reopenings. I'm Brenda Collins, chair of the London branch of the Institute of Hospitality. We are the world's leading body for hospitality professionals, and our purpose is to promote professionalism through lifelong learning. We have about 100 people registered for today, the majority of which are not members of the Institute, so we hope and encourage you to join through the instituteofhospitality.org website, and you can sign up there, and there are different levels of membership depending on your experience to join. So the purpose of today's webinar is to help professionals understand what has changed over the last year. You know, many of you have been on furlough, or your teams have been on furlough, and many of you are anxious about coming back into the business, given that there have been so many changes in terms of revenue, distribution, connectivity, etc. So we want to take away some of those pain points for you and educate and update you and give you some tips to take away today, what to look at in terms of connectivity and 21st century distribution. There will be a Q&A box in the webinar, so please do submit questions, and we do have a great selection of questions already. So I'd like to kick off by introducing our wonderful team of panelists that we've brought together, some of the finest industry experts on this subject. So if I may ask each of you to just give us an overview of yourselves, your experience, your background, and your area of interest. And Jutta, I'm going to start with yourself, if I may.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Jutta Moore. I'm the founder and managing director of Moore Hotel Consulting. We provide consulting services mainly around revenue management and everything commercial, but we also do large technical implementation of anything around digitization, project management, interim solutions, and so much more, outsourcing of revenue management and others. Thank you.
Wonderful. Inna?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Inna. I'm Assistant Revenue Manager for two Four Seasons UK Collection properties. So Four Seasons Hotel London at Park Lane and Four Seasons Hampshire. So two very different properties, one a city centre hotel and one a countryside destination hotel. It's really been a great experience looking how both hotels are behaving during the pandemic as well. And I've been now in hospitality for 13 years, predominantly within the luxury market. So for Four Seasons, I worked for companies like Red Carnation Hotels and Bulgaria Hotels and Resorts. And my career in hospitality actually started from housekeeping. And since then, I pretty much worked in every operational department and some supporting departments as well, until I found my passion for revenue. And as my operational colleagues like to say, sold my soul to the devil and became a revenue manager. It's really a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you and talk for you. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Inna. Ali, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Ali Powell. I'm a business growth expert with my company, Commercial Acceleration. So it's all about helping you to optimize acquisition and retention, and yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you, Ali. And last but not least, Ken.
Ladies before gentlemen, of course. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Young. I work for Preferred Hotels and Resorts. My title is Head of Revenue Optimization for Europe, although I prefer sometimes to describe myself as a distribution strategist. I love all things connected and interconnected with distribution. I've been in hospitality for more years than I care to mention, going all the way back to joining UTEL in last century, believe it or not. So that's me, and I'm looking forward to some nice challenging questions as well.
Great, thank you, Ken. And we work together, so I know your background and your area of expertise very well. You're not that old, Ken, not that old indeed. So great, thank you all very much. It's really super to have you all on the panel today. And I just want to kick off the conversation, because what we found over the last year with a lot of our independent hotels is that there's been an amalgamation of roles. Whereas previously everybody worked in silos in terms of revenue and sales. How do you think that's going to impact the business as we reopen? What are the things that general managers and directors of sales and revenue experts need to consider now as we reopen our business, given that those roles have changed?
From my perspective, I think that we all have to do more with less. A lot of people have left the industry. A lot of people were made redundant, and whilst we thought it would be easy to re-recruit, what I'm hearing at the moment, that is not the case. So a lot of knowledge has been lost, and what we need to do now is to really employ very, very smart technologies and use our resources a lot better, and have a very smart tech stack that does a lot of the heavy lifting in the back office, so that the resources we do have are actually freed up to deliver really exceptional guest experiences. And that is across all departments, because I think the silos have to be broken down anyway, but they will be broken down by pure need, because suddenly we all have to do cross-functional work, and the more we can automate then in the back office, the better it is, the more focus we can have to the front for the guests.
Understand. Ina, are you seeing that as well in terms of the technology deployment, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add, it's also no longer about revenue management or revenue optimization. Right now, it's about demand generation. It's about revenue generation. So no longer can you just work in your own silos. It's about getting collaboration with digital marketing, with your distribution teams, with your department heads, with sales, and making sure that profit remains your main focus. So only through collaboration, only through getting insights, the travel intent insights from your sales teams, what booking patterns are you looking on your website? That information will come from the digital marketing teams. What are guests saying, the ones that are going to stay in the hotel, because it's really important we don't forget to look after guests, to make sure that we listen to guests as they come now, because a lot of insights will actually are staying in-house. So what are the front office teams telling us? So absolutely, I think that collaboration is really needed. I've been talking about breaking the silos for a while now, and I think now is really the time to make it a priority.
Absolutely. And I think, as people are going back into the offices, it's that sort of what now, what are the first things that they should be doing as they get back after a year potentially of being out of the business? Jutta, I know you have lots of checklists and we want to get straight into sharing tips and for people to take things away from today. So far away with things that you think revenue experts should be looking at first and foremost as they get into the business.
Okay, so with profit in mind, the first thing is really to know your capacity. Will you be reopening at full capacity, or do you have to limit your capacity? For example, if you're in a resort and you have spa spaces, or you have limited restaurant spaces, and you would not be able to deliver the full customer experience if you only open with a limited service, or if you run out of space in terms of social distancing or hygiene protocols in the spa. So determining your capacity, I think, is the very, very first thing. The next step is to actually look at where you're at the moment. Whether you have a revenue management system or just a PMS, what you should be doing is to look at least at the next 90 days, but ideally at the full year, to see what have you got on the books and where do you have real opportunities. So where is there a lot of demand and where are your gaps? Where are your troughs where you may need to work with your digital marketing team to actually create a little bit more demand. So it is that initial stock take, which I find is the most important thing as you start back up. Everybody's a little bit rusty at the moment, so we are also running some workshops to reopen with confidence. But once you've taken stock of what you've got, where you're at, then it's all about updating your pricing, first of all, to make sure that you're priced correctly for your property, but also within your comp set. And there will be big differences this year, I think, between city hotels and resorts. I'm sure Ina is going to expand on that a little bit more. And I know from many resorts, there is an opportunity to price sky high the danger there is that you're not offering value. So it's the value perception that you always have to keep in mind, because this is a great opportunity for resorts to actually bind in and create loyalty with domestic customers that may also come back during your quiet times in October, November, December. So it's a real opportunity to get that. In the city hotels, I do strongly hope that we're not getting into that downward spirals, but that hotels are able to keep their prices, because it will offer a lot better value than resorts this summer. So many families and friends want to travel and need to travel, and city hotels can use that opportunity to really promote themselves while the cities are not as busy, for their customers to explore. So it's really about setting your prices not only for the next 90 days, but ideally for the whole year to get updated. You need to look at your comp set, and that's really important. Are your previous competitors still your competitors now, or have some fallen away? I know that a lot of more budget type hotels have contracted council business, you know, so they have long-term accommodations for either key workers or for families in need and so on, and they may not be in your comp set or opening that many hotel rooms anymore. So those are kind of the very first steps, and not wanting to take away what Ina and the others will have to say. It then goes over to updating all of your information. So in all the different distribution channels that you use, on your own website, to make sure that you do have the accurate information available. And I'll hand over, I guess, to Ina.
Perfect, fantastic. So from my perspective, I suggest to look at the reopening from 3 stages, or 3 steps, if you may. So the 3 R's of reopening, and what I'd like to call it. So the first is the reassurance step, the second is reaction, and the third one is revaluation. So what do I mean by this? The first is reassurance. Reassurance is about looking at what your customers now are concerned with. What are your customers asking themselves when they're booking a hotel, to make sure that you are converting. So the 3 points of reassurance for guests, the 3 main concerns are: A, am I safe? B, is my money safe? And C, is my good time safe? So what do I mean by this? What I mean is, when guests are looking at hotels, the first thing is that they're concerned is, am I going to be safe? So this is about hygiene related to COVID. It's about reassuring guests with clear messages in all your channels about how the hotel will keep the guests and clients safe. So that needs to be done through the channels. That needs to be also done with your team, so that when the guest is picking up the phone, which is very likely to happen, guests want now to speak to somebody just to get that extra level of reassurance, that your teams know exactly what is going on in their hotel and can really reassure and encourage the guests to book. So the second question there is my money safe? So this is about the fact that the market is highly volatile right now. There's a lot of last minute bookings and cancellations. There's a lot of last minute amendments from the government. So guests need to be reassured that when they make that booking, that their money is safe. So you can do that again by making sure you've got flexible cancellation policy, flexible amendment policy, and you're communicating that in a very clear way to the guests. And I think as well, there is kind of a balance between making sure hotels are getting cash flow right now, but also making sure the guest is having as much flexibility as possible. So maybe if you do want to offer advanced purchase rates to have that bit of cash flow, make sure that it's clear that you are actually ready to be and prepared to be flexible with it. Because I totally understand that saying don't do any advanced purchases might be a bit unrealistic, and some hotels really, really need the cash flow now. So maybe do that for vouchers as well. Vouchers is a good way to ensure that you've got the cash flow now, but the guest has that extra flexibility to book later. And then another thing that goes towards this point is the importance of book direct messaging. So that is as important as ever. Because at the moment, market really is value-led rather than price-led. So it needs to be really clear to guests why they should book direct. I'm sure others might elaborate on this point later as well, because I think just the importance of this cannot be underestimated. So the third question is my good time safe? Guests still want to have a good time. They still want to feel like there is plenty to do in the area, even if there's still government restrictions in place. So make it clear in the content on all channels, what is it to do in the hotel? What is it to do in the area? How can guests have a good time? And you can reflect that in your marketing messages. You can reflect that in putting together packages with experiences, perhaps even looking at partnerships. What is there in the area? What businesses are in the area that you can partner with to offer something really bespoke and unique to your guests as an experience? And I think just making sure that you keep that clear communication at all times. Things are going to change still, so just ensure all the channels are updated, your teams are aware what's going on. So the second of the reopening is reaction. So what I mean by reaction is, what processes and systems do you have in place to ensure the business can react quickly and efficiently to different scenarios? So we all know about the importance of being proactive, but I think actually importance of being reactive is there as well. So what are you going to do? How are you going to react if there's a last minute change in government restrictions or in demand or in market behavior? What plans do you have in place that you can quickly and efficiently execute if a feeder market suddenly is able now to travel to your destination? So I think all of these questions need to be asked, and you need to think about that. So it's kind of, if you may, it's about proactive reaction. And here it's about having the right data, having the right tools, and having the right teams. So really 3 key areas. And then the third step of the 3 R's of reopening is revaluation. The main question to ask yourself here is, what has changed? Jutta already mentioned about comp sets. If your guests have changed, and considering that comp sets are based on fighting for the same customer, then your comp set possibly has changed as well. Maybe it's temporary. And here what I would suggest is introducing more than one comp set. Some hotels are already doing this. It's a good idea anyway, because you might have different segmentations. You might have, for example, a very strong group business, right? So then you should be looking at your comp set from comp set 1 is my room guest, comp set 2 is my group business. And now obviously group business is a bit down. So what you can look at is my comp set 2, my comp set 3 is my temporary comp set, fighting for domestic market right now, if that's not your predominant market usually. That is also about understanding if the processes and the systems you have in place address the change that has happened with your guests, because your guest needs might have changed. So is my tech stack still addressing these needs? The processes that I have in place is still addressing these needs. It's just about consistently evaluating what needs to change. And then when it comes to packages and offers as well, there is gone are the days of set it and forget it. So we need to be just a lot more agile than we were before.
Wonderful, Ina, thank you. And there's actually so much there that you've given us. We will summarize it and send out to all of the attendees on the call today, just so that they can recap and relook at that. But I think you made a very good point about data, tools, teams. They may actually be things that businesses have taken away and not invested in over the last year because of the, being closed. So it's going to be important to get access to that data, access to the intelligence, the tools, as well as the challenge, of course, with recruiting the teams back into the business. Excellent points there. Thank you. Ken, I'm going to move over to you, because there's a really big issue going on right now with the wholesalers. And one of the challenges that businesses are going to find themselves in is the issue between the directors of sales and revenue directors or managers, understanding the responsibilities between this whole issue around distribution of rates, wholesale rates, OTA rates, etc. Can you talk us through what's happened over the last year and the contract that Marriott and Expedia have done, and the implications of that, please?
Sure. So, yes, the idea is that you have a wholesaler and a tour operator and an OTA, and they're managed separately. I speak to hotels and, well, who manages your OTA accounts, your Expedias, your booking? Oh, well, that's revenue management. And who manages your wholesalers and your tour operators, your B2B and your B2C tour? Oh, that's leisure sales. Well, I'm afraid those days are long gone. Back in October 2019, Marriott decided to stop, as I would say, herding cats, trying to control all their B2B distribution in different places, because it didn't work for them. So they signed an exclusive deal with Expedia for Expedia to be their exclusive B2B distributor. So that set a whole chain of events in place. And I like to look upon Expedia now as one of your biggest wholesaler accounts, because that's in effect what they are. When Marriott said to Hotel Beds and Web Beds and Mickey and Bon Hotel, you want our rates? Get them from Expedia, or you don't book Marriott. I mean, that was a huge change in events. So if you've got revenue management managing your traditional OTAs of Booking and Expedia, and you've got your leisure sales team out there saying, well, I've got this contract with this wholesaler, this B2B tour operator distributor, or this B2C tour operator, because there's a big difference between them. Those types of contracts, everybody has to speak to everybody else about them now. It all has to be managed centrally, or all those teams need to speak to one another. I talk with our hotels in Preferred around the world about this issue, because it is so complex to understand. When I talked about distribution strategy, this absolutely has to be the part of reopening as well. It's these websites pinging up here in the UK. There's a new website that sprung up. Is it going to be the new Amoma? I don't know if anybody's seen Booketta with all these cheap rates all over the place. So where did that come from? Are they getting an Expedia feed? I don't know, but I'm constantly talking to these people, and don't think about it as though, well, it's just my Expedia room only and package rates. Well, no, it isn't. I've been talking to a self-booking tool operator, plugs into the GDS for small, medium enterprises that don't use a travel management corporation. And they've been telling me, well, our net rate, we compare it to Booking Genius Level 1 and Expedia Rewards. And if those rates are better, because unbeknown to that hotel, these rates, they're giving a special offer to Expedia Reward members, and that rate is cheaper than my net rate, I'll display that. Now, these third parties that are doing this, they're also coming to hoteliers more and more now and saying, oh, give us a contract here. I'm speaking with them all the time. They're not doing it out of any altruistic motive. They don't love us to bits all of a sudden. But because of what Marriott have done, they've all of a sudden, for those Marriott hotels, become just a switch mechanism to get to their own demand clients, and then it goes back, and it all goes back to Expedia. So if you're going to contract with these partners, understand that everything is connected to everything else. And if you give a special deal just to Expedia, that's going to go pinging out. Now, I'm not saying that these tour operators and B2B tour operators are going to take that feed for your hotel straight away. If you're not a Marriott, they have the option. So some of them are talking to our hotels and saying, well, I notice you've given us this rate for this period, but I can find a better rate on Expedia. So they're using that Expedia, that EPS, that Expedia Partner Solutions switch to do a rate shopping, almost you could call it, as well as using a traditional rate shopping tool. They're comparing their directly contracted prices with what they can find on Expedia. And I'll tell you, if you don't have a contract with them, but the demand clients of that B2B distributor are saying, come on, book my hotel, they can switch that EPS feed on and out it'll go to those demand clients. And the other issue to be aware of with wholesalers, of course, with their huge distribution platform, not just Expedia, but Hotel Beds and Mickey and so on, and Web Beds, is just be very careful if they ask you, give us and coming out of COVID, this is super important, give us a special rate just for this destination, for this outbound country or region or area. Well, understand that when that demand client in that country receives that rate, if they're also a B2B distributor, and this can happen very frequently, and all they have to do is distribute it on outside that country or that region, and then your rate parity, or rate integrity as I prefer, just goes. Several years ago, we have a lovely resort in Thailand, and their parity, their integrity was spot on, and then overnight it just collapsed. So I asked the question, what on earth's going on? Oh, well, we gave that market special rate to this particular wholesaler, and it's only internal for Thailand. No, forget that. Those days are gone. And quite frankly, and I'll be upsetting some people because I have these conversations around the world, those days are gone. Market special rates, unless there is some watertight agreement, they're just going to leak around the world. So it's one for all and all for one. Think about that when you're contracting and you think that's a leisure account and that's an OTA, those days are gone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's super complex, Ken, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, Jutta, if that's something that you're going to incorporate into your revenue workshops as you're running them. But we have had a comment in from Roxanne, thank you, Roxanne, saying it's easy to cannibalize your direct business by giving a wholesale a special rate. It will end up online on the likes of Anoma and the one that you mentioned this morning, Ken, that's new to everybody. So revenue cannibalization is actually a big issue between directors of sales and revenue because they don't understand the complexities of how things are completely integrated. How do we make that easier to understand? Or is there a way? Is there millions of training?
Everybody keeps quiet. You've got to be curious. You've absolutely got to be curious and ask the brave questions. When I talk to B2C tour operators, they don't onward distribute, but where are your supply clients? Who are your supply clients? We have hotels coming to us and saying, well, I signed that contract and I've got no business out of that contract. It's a waste of time. Well, actually, you're getting a lot of business, but it's all coming through a particular wholesaler that they've got the contract with as well. Mm-hmm. And so this is where you have to understand that and ask the brave questions. We've got a hotel in the US and they've closed down some contracts they've had for decades. And their integrity and parity issues have gone from sometimes 30% difference down to under 10. Yes, if you go to the Expedia Partner Solutions page and you listen to Alexander Pyam of Marriott explaining why they did this, you're going to have the 80-20 rule. 80% of Marriott's rate integrity issues have gone away, but there's still the 20%. There are always rogue operators out there. But look what happened to MoMA in September 2019. They've gone. Mm-hmm. They were a key rogue operator in this market. Yes. So I'll keep quiet because I've got a soapbox on this. I'll let somebody else.
I've been standing in front of their offices in Geneva, and there were no offices. It was just the address. We had an issue with them with a hotel in Geneva, so we thought we'd just walk up and speak to them. No chance. No chance.
Yeah.
But
mystery website.
That as well. I mean, my thought is always revenue and distribution is easy. It's just not simple. So the more curious you are and the more time you can invest in actually understanding it and understanding the data flow, the better. But we also have some new technologies coming up, like Impala, who actually connect your hotels as a new mega channel without, at your actual bar rates rather than at contracted rates, and open it up to exactly these, not only bed banks, but lots and lots and lots of independents. So it's really about keeping up to speed with the developments.
Yes, which is not easy, is it? Particularly when we've had a year of furlough, etc. And hence why the purpose of today is really going to help people understand what they need to know. Ali, before we come to you, I just want to ask Ken a quick comment with Ken. We've seen a lot of our hotels perhaps not join certain RFPs, like BA Holidays, for example, because they say, oh, we don't need that business right now. Could you just explain the process in terms of signing up an RFP and in terms of the timeline and the visibility, because that has impacted quite a few of our hotels, hasn't it?
Yeah, so the RFP process, whatever tool you use, because we've had people on furlough and people who are just simply not there anymore, we as hoteliers have to give a helping hand to help that process through, talk them through the process, and understand that coming out of this, having the shop window out there with these companies, you mentioned BA Holidays, the airline tour operators, as those international flights take off, no pun intended, but if you're not there with the shop window, you're not there as an option. And I've had hoteliers tell me, well, nothing's going to happen in 2021. I'll reapply for it in 2022. Well, people are booking now for spring breaks in 2022. I've seen the business, and you're not there. You're not there in the shop window. The RFP process needs to be gone through. Yes, I know it can be extremely painful. Why do I have to answer this question 10, 12, 15 times on different RFPs? But that's part of the nature of the complexity of the whole process. They all use different switch mechanisms. They use companies like OpenJaw, like Juniper, DCS, etc., to do all this distribution. They're all different databases. They're all different switch mechanisms. And until they can all talk the same language, unfortunately, that RFP process can be painful. But you can certainly set up templates in the different RFP tools, which will help you. And it'll also help you not to give this discount here, this commission here, and things to watch out for, like on Expedia, Partner Central, it's great. You'll have a little pop-up saying your market's soft, do this, and just press the button and it's all done. Well, they're using technology behind that. They're using AI technology, a company called Gemonics. And you press the button and out Gemonics goes. And it's not just Gemonics. There are other companies out there that do this. So I'm always curious about how that is happening and who is doing what on that side. So yes, the RFP process is just the start of the whole thing. And then it gets distributed out and it's sold on or not, as the case may be. So learn who's a B2B distributor and who's pure B2C.
Thank you, Ken. That's super interesting and really important advice. Thank you. You mentioned there about the shop window. Ali, I know you're a very, very creative lady and very commercial with that. We had a question from a lady called Suzanne from Green Shoots Retail, who asks about, do the panel consider retail as a good incremental revenue stream for hospitality? What's your view on that, and what's your experience, and what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant question, Suzanne. I think the retail revenue stream is so untapped and could be a massive source of revenue, incremental revenue for hotels. If you think about the amount of dwell time, so how long we're all in hotels for, whether it's 2 nights, a week, you've got this captive audience that are just there, in such a good mood and looking for things that they could buy. And to be fair, there are obviously some hotel players that have been selling some of their stuff up to now. So whatever, the Western Heavenly bed or, might say the Four Seasons bed sheets. But there is so much other stuff you could be selling and having like a whole brand story component to it, to celebrate bits like, the wine glasses or the local sourced products, the special hand cream that you use. So yeah, I think there are so many ways hotels could now look at what they've got and think, what would consumers like? It would make a much better experience for them. I
think we're probably a little bit behind other industries, aren't we, in terms of how we we sell that, how we position it in terms of opportunities for extra revenue sources. But I know that you're looking at different revenue sources within hotels. For example, memberships. Can you tell us a little bit about what the opportunity is there, Ali, please?
Totally. I mean, so yeah, I've got a very passionate area around retention and the power of retention. So if I firstly talk about maybe the benefits of retention, whether that's a loyalty reward membership thing, and then I'll come into the sort of how do you operationalize and execute that. So benefits of retention in three, simple points. Firstly, it's super cost efficient. So it's can be saving you 25 to 75% of your cost per acquisition, your marketing, because you've got this loyal base who are just going to keep coming back with recurring revenue. And your job is to try to hold on to them as much as possible and avoid what we call like the leaky bucket, where you've just got people dripping out because you're focusing on other things like filling the top of the funnel, the bucket, and not holding on to these great people that already have an affiliation with you. So yeah, how do you get their revenue continuously, reduce all the need for commissions for OTAs that can save you millions if you can get more direct revenue, and focus on what we call lifetime value of the customer. So I've done some time in Fitness First as their chief commercial officer. It's all about the lifetime value of a customer. So it's not just transaction, they came one time, they came another time next year. For hotels, we want to be thinking, well, how can this person come for 80 years? That's how long the lifetime can be. In gyms, we're lucky if we can hold on to someone for maybe 2 years membership. Hotels, it could just be a forever customer. So a second benefit, and so key to now, is the power of community. We all want some sort of belonging and connection, and how wonderful to be part of a club. And three is it's proven with data that these people spend more, your loyal customers. So yeah, coming to your question, Brenda, about well, how do you do this? You don't need some massive infrastructure program like some big chains could have, like Hilton or the Bonvoy by Marriott. It would all start with really more, well, what do your customers want? Because it's all about the customer centricity. And you might have that insight now. You might want to do some form of sort of research to find out what that right proposition is for you. And then it's, either you could use the power of your CRM system if you have one, and looking at the data already about how do you recognize and reward that loyal customer. You could sort of tier it in with your PMS, for instance. Many CRM systems are already doing this bolt-on. You could get with one of our sort of hotel loyalty providers. There's a few around. If you wanted a point system, you would hopefully have some creative partnerships going, because it's all really about the experience. And there's some fantastic collaborations you can make with all sorts of players, travel, tourism, wine, bike companies, to offer this brilliant wider experience to captivate people. And yeah, it doesn't just need to be about bedroom night stays. So what I would love to see more of is memberships. So using your lobby spaces, for instance, much more creatively to offer like co-working and stuff. I've only really seen, say, like 4 players do this, like a Village or a Hoxton, where they're just very cleverly getting in recurring revenue, which is, the ultimate, some sort of subscription model where you can charge whatever, £200 a month, and you can come in and enjoy, unlimited tea and coffee or a light lunch, package it up for a silver bundle if you want to use the lifestyle experiences of the gym. And I would love to see more of that, because with the whole disruption of offices now and it going to more hybrid and remote working, I think hotels are the perfect environment to now have people just enjoy being in the atmosphere during the day, get out of the bedroom, get out of the Amazon annoying you on the doorstep and your dogs and all that, and come to the beautiful hotels and have that part of your proposition.
That's Very, very true. I was actually talking with a European hotel yesterday who are looking at doing just that, commercializing that whole membership side of the business. And I think maybe some of our city hotels, particularly, I know we have people internationally on the calls from Singapore, Hong Kong, etc. London in particular is going, with the suffering that we've got to think smart, creative. I mean, do you have any recommendations in terms of partnerships that you've seen out there that could help add extra value or bring in incremental revenue?
Yeah, so creative partnerships, well, firstly, it would be maybe, your destination specifically. So so say for instance, your I don't want to like name drop here, but you're a country hotel. There's one in Rutland Water, and they've put an experience together around lovely additional value add package experiences. So you've got the hotel room bundling with a nearby vineyard, bundling it with a bike hire, bundling it with some local food produce, and suddenly you've got this brilliant package, and you call it some sexy marketing name like the Ultimate Escape or something, and you can charge a lot for it. So it's like, yeah, what is the win for the customer? What is the win commercially? Creative partnerships, we could go back to retail on that point. There's so many out there, things to do, and I think now is the time to do collaborations. Get creative. It is a win-win for everyone, and it can be really simple. It doesn't need to be crazy systems data underneath it. Just joint affiliations, promotion. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and Peter has sent in a question saying that reminding us that customers are looking for a memorable experience when they stay. So that sort of partnership with other businesses in the local community, etc., is going to help create that memorable experience.
If I can throw in here, from a revenue perspective, what really comes in here as well is the total revenue, that we no longer look just after rooms, but how much are we actually getting for our space? We have so much unused convention space as well, and we need to think of lots of creative ways, whether it's modular co-working that we could easily implement without any massive investments, with a good IT infrastructure. So it's really looking at your whole space and identifying different areas that can create additional revenue streams as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that point, I would
totally love that point. Yeah, no, sorry, just say it in it. Totally love that point. It's all about, I mean, ideally we would be tracking from a hotstats or whatever total revenue per square meter, and so like we can look at all asset classes similarly, total rev par at a minimum. Yeah, sorry, Anna.
I just wanted to add on that point, just while we're talking about total revenue management, the importance of upselling, because now is really the perfect opportunity where guests, we've all been closed up in houses and homes, and not we talk about pent up demand, we talk about pent up income there for travel. So really just looking at all the points of engagement with the guest, that is at the booking stage, that is at the pre-arrival stage, at the stay stage, and even post-stay stage as well. What can you do to upsell? And also making sure that like the key element in upselling is people. So, and now really is a tricky part, because we had a lot of teams on furlough. We had a lot of teams, some team members lost their colleagues as well. So it's a matter of making sure that when you bring the team back, that they are fully aware of what opportunities there are, that you're making it as easy for them as possible, as motivational for them as possible to do the upsells. And one thing I would suggest is that when you do bring the team back, is that you get them to stay at your hotel for one more night, just to remind them what it is like to be within your hotel, within your property, what different opportunities guests can enjoy, what different experiences they can enjoy. And that will, kill two birds with one stone. You essentially will work on team's morale, because how nice it is to come back and actually have to stay in your property again. You'll get your team members maybe practice on each other before the guests arrive, and also you'll get team members clued up on what's going on and what they can how can they really make that experience extra special for the guest, and also have an effect at the bottom line for your property as well.
a great point. Yes, it's just reminding ourselves of our product and actually experiencing it, because we probably haven't been in the property for a year. But you also make a good point on upselling. And Jutta, we were talking the other day, and something that struck me, which I hadn't actually thought about, was your point about handling the COVID issue in terms of occupancy. So if you have a spa, a restaurant that you cannot fill to capacity, that you close out your lower category room types in order to upsell. I thought that was very creative, and hadn't thought about it personally. But
yeah, and when you first think about it, you think, oh my God, I cannot close my lowest category because that's my entry level. If I do that, then I'm too expensive. But if you're faced with compression, so if you're faced with the fact that you can only sell maybe 80% of your rooms, it makes a massive difference to your ADR on the one hand, so in terms of profitability, but also where it really creates a much better experience is that you offer more space, because you're not giving kind of the smallest room. We have a lot of kind of leisure or workation business as well, where guests come in, rather than staying for the weekend, they stay a few days extra because they can now work from the hotel. And by offering them the higher category, automatically you offer a much nicer experience. And that can then also flow through to your suites, for example. If you can't quite fill them at times, if you're a resort and during the week, you can always offer those for private dining as well. So kind of reinventing your spaces, you know, with social distancing. Some families do want to get together, or maybe a friendship group, obviously depending on regulation, what are the group sizes that you can allow, but you can just create such memorable dining experiences in more private dining spaces, or as a resort, if you have outside spaces, you know, fire pits, etc., that you could lease out or rent out to individual parties, you know, those are all additional revenue stream. But the closing of the lower categories, I cannot stress enough what a great impact that has on ADR, because you're not selling that very low rate. And in some clients that we've actually applied that with last year, the difference with the overall year-on-year revenue really was not that substantial anymore. Whereas if we had those rooms open, because typically also those rooms are fairly high in numbers, you know, you're diluting your rate in that case. So if you are in a position where you have to limit your capacity, that is definitely a strategy I would recommend.
Wonderful. Thank you for that advice, Jutta. Can we have a 5-minute discussion around technology? Any good technology out there that can add value or optimize our revenue? Anything new that you've seen come into the market in the last year that may help our hotels?
Yeah, I mean, I can start with that, sort of building on that point about experience and sort of upselling and really just maximizing revenue per customer. I would love to see more e-commerce coming from hotels. So, you know, up in the booking engine when you are booking your room, you know, at the moment we might do something like a room upgrade and a, you know, free bottle of champagne or whatever, but it's not much. And then we might make it a bit painful that then if they want to go to the spa, they need to book somewhere else, and then is it going to be available, and then the restaurant it's somewhere else, and it's like taking whatever 2 hours to make a booking, which is quite painful. You know, something I've seen, say like the One Journey system, or is where it's all there up just straight away, boom, you know, and you're just doing it at the time. I want the room, I want the spa, yes, I'll choose it now. I want the restaurant, yeah, I'll choose my thing now, you know. And the only person I've seen doing that before was Center Parks, which I think was just brilliant in terms of a win for the customer, a win for the commercially, get the itinerary sorted before you go, get excited, but also just get a lot of revenue coming in.
Absolutely. Anybody else seen any creative technology coming into play?
I think, no, go ahead, Ken.
There are other companies such as One Journey around And but what I find is that there is so little utilization of all the tools that are available, and you've got to be grounded in the basics of what you can do in your own booking engine, and be curious with your booking engine provider. Can I do this? Can I do that? We have a lot of those conversations with our hotels, and you might not be able to do it one way, but you can certainly do it another way. But be extremely curious with your booking engine provider over that and the look and feel. And it's so sad because sometimes I look at a booking engine on a hotel, and this is lots of hotels, not Preferred, or I'm not picking on anybody in particular. And you look at the images and the time that they've put into booking.com and Expedia, and it's fantastic. And then you go to their booking engine. Oh, look, that room type hasn't got a picture. Well, that room type's got one picture. And well, that's the booking engine. That's the revenue team. And the GM's looking constantly at booking.com. Well, it's got this latest picture and this latest picture. Everything's connected to everything else. People are comparing those sites. If they're getting a more pleasurable experience from an OTA that's also distributing a lot of that, both rates, ARA, availability rates and inventory, and static data, where are they going to book? So, spend more time on your own booking engine. And somebody, I think it was Danielle, put this up on a comment. Absolutely. Put your value adds on brand.com. But everybody needs to understand that that's being done, and don't have somebody else working in isolation and putting a dirt cheap rate for more than 3 nights on a booking or an Expedia, and wonder why it's not being done. And Jutta, the other thing with what you said about closing your lower category, I've seen that done, and then the integrity goes to hell. And you talk to somebody, oh, well, that's because I've got this static contract with this wholesaler, and they've still got an allotment out there and available. And it's just destroyed that great idea because there's not this understanding between the different teams as to who's doing what and what the effect is with doing it.
I think the integrity there is very important, that if you do run that strategy, you run it throughout, and you really understand as well where your distribution goes. But I think on technology in general, the main shift is that we are moving away from the PMS as the center of your universe, which it has always been in the past, to become, for the whole tech stack to become much more guest centric. So this is really where the upselling kind of emails come in, the whole guest communication side. So I mentioned earlier upselling, but it's it's systems like One Journey, which are literally just coming through, that then offer like a wholesome experience, where every dot or every customer touch point is connected, and literally from creating awareness through to search and booking and check-in, check-out reviews. Even on the review side, there is a new trend that you can actually use the reviews much more for marketing. You can put little marketing messages into your reviews responses. But going back to technology as well, on the revenue management side, there has been a fair amount of development in pricing, but also in data. And it's really data that is king. And data has been so hard to come by with the old legacy systems. Trying to extract meaningful data from a PMS is tricky. So there are lots of new solutions around, be it in the revenue management space that would then really encompass everything, or is it just a BI tool that you need? But I think it's really good to review your tech stack. And whilst we're now, I know a lot of hotels find it hard to actually invest in technology. Now is the time to look, because we do need to work smarter, and there's different connectivities that we can use. And one thing I really, really want to focus on, especially on the revenue management side, is that forward-looking data. So here, for example, OTA Insight has brought in that market insight. I know Fornova is doing something similar. TravelClick has something on offer. forward-looking data becomes so much more important because we can't look back at same time last year because we were closed. We can't look back at same time 2 years ago because business levels were completely different. So getting on top of the data and understanding it, looking forward, and again, some of the super modern revenue management systems have got a little script that they insert into your booking engine so that you better understand not only the traffic on your website, but also the conversion of your booking engine, and really focus your mind on that forward-looking data to understand and be able to act and react very, very quickly to changing trends.
Absolutely. Jutta actually read my mind there for the forward-looking data. I was going to mention that as well. And I think now, essentially when you do forecasts, right, the question is, well, what data can I look at now to be able to more or less accurately forecast what is going to happen? So absolutely, it's your on the books, it's your trends, your pace that you're seeing, and forward-looking data. There's also things by Google Travel Intent, for example. You can look at your web analytics. That's going to tell you a lot about, where are the customers, what dates they're looking at, where are you seeing that? So absolutely, STR came up with Forward Star, for example, a great tool as well. OTA Insight. There's a lot of technologies out there now that offer that forward-looking data. I also wanted to mention something else that I find quite interesting. Some people know about this already. It's been around maybe for 1 or 2 years, but that's the notion of the some RMS systems came up with the notion of continuous pricing. So essentially what it is that you don't work with tiers of pricing anymore. What you do is set up per room category, your floor and your ceiling. And that really actually can drive amazing results for you as well, because what it does is optimizes your demand by room type. So sometimes some dates you might have more demand for your standard room categories, or sometimes you have your demand for your suites. And if you have tiered pricing, what that means is that you can't within the same day set up a different tier level for a different room category. Whereas if you do continuous pricing, you actually can. So it really is demand led. So I think it's an interesting concept. It's going to take off more and more. Some hotel companies are comfortably using that already. But if you didn't know about this, look it up. It's a cool concept in my opinion.
I'm definitely going to look that up, but I see all of you revenue experts nodding. You already know about it. Thank you for that, Ina. We've just got a couple of minutes left, and we haven't discussed the elephant in the room, which is Google. And I know you're very passionate about it, as you all are. But can you tell us what's happened in the last month or so with Google?
Okay, so on the 9th of March, Google announced that they now are offering free hotel listings. And these free hotel listings, you may think, hold on, I'm listed on Google anyway. This now allows you to get your hotel in front of any consumer. So if you look at Google Travel, and they have done very much the same with Google Flights and Google Shopping last year, there's now a scramble actually for ranking, so if you use the time now to fill in your Google My Business and work with your website or your booking engine provider, they are usually your connectivity to this. So in the past, we've had to spend a lot of money on meta search results, whereas now your hotel can actually be listed for free and it will come up under show all options in Google. And it's really a matter of getting your data up to scratch, your content. Unfortunately, as a hotel, you can't do posts, but as a restaurant, you can. So on Google My Business, you can, create your restaurant as its own entity, because then you can do posts, etc. there as well. The jury is still out a little bit, but certainly what makes a difference to the ranking is the speed at which your site is loading, the accuracy of information, but also the accuracy of historic pricing. So if you have in the past often misled with advertising to say from £99, but the cheapest that was found was always 129 or 189, then you might be penalized, but certainly do explore the free listings, as that is an opportunity, at least for the next year or two. Obviously, Google don't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They do want to drive more traffic. They obviously see what Amazon is trying to do in in travel, Amazon has had a few false starts as well, but you know, they're always coming up with new things. So Google is offering this opportunity, and at least for the next year or two, make sure that you get in there with the ranking before they, of course, start charging again at a later stage to have a certain ranking there.
Indeed, that would be super interesting to see how they...
On that note, there's also something else coming from Tripadvisor that they're trialing in the US at the moment, and it should be in Europe from early June. So Tripadvisor is offering what's called Tripadvisor Plus, and that is a membership for travelers at only $99. So they pay $99 and then in return get certain discounts in hotels. You may think it, you know, who wants that, you know, who would pay $99? But if you think somebody who is starting to travel regularly, again, if they can get, you know, 10% off plus some amenities, you know,
very interesting.
They redeem the money very, very quickly. But we haven't heard much for it yet in the in Europe and in the UK. But it's anticipated that it will come over here in June. So that's
very
another
interesting. Yeah.
potential.
Thank you for that, Jutta. Well, we're out of time, I'm afraid. A quick fire round, 10 seconds each. What do you think are the most important things that revenue people will need, tips or skills, etc.? Anything that you want to share? Any quick advice, tips, Ken, Inna?
Just everybody work together. We're all in the same team together. And remember, it's not a mobile phone that sleeps on the bed. It's a human being.
Absolutely. Anybody else before we?
Yep, absolutely. Look at all your pricing, understand distribution, but also review your processes that are so time consuming. Try to automate where you can. If you want further help, do join our workshop, contact me. We've got workshops next Thursday, Friday, and the week after Thursday, Friday to help you reopen with confidence, where we will take you through step by step.
On my end, I would add to remember your teams. Your teams are going to be absolutely key to drive, to go forward, to reassure guests, to be reactive, and to continuously reevaluate what your business is doing that is appealing to guests. So just really focus on the team, focus on team members. I think that your team really needs your support, your reassurance. They really need your input right now. So just they really are the ones that are going to make the biggest difference. And you know, it's time for revenue managers to really think about the revenue culture, think about commercial culture, and how they can support the team members to really become ambassadors of that. And also, just to add, you to mention Tripadvisor Plus, I wrote a very comprehensive article. So if you're interested to know more about Tripadvisor Plus, you can go to my LinkedIn and read about that, to talk about what are the benefits and what are potentially some drawbacks of joining. So thank you.
Thank you, Inna. We'll definitely look that up, and well said with regard to the team. Ali, any final thoughts from you before we close?
I'd say it's all about customer ambassadors. So yeah, just if you don't already find a way of doing some form of loyalty stroke reward stroke membership, and I love this topic, so if you want to bounce anything with me, you know, contact me.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I think you're all incredible industry professionals. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and your tips. We will send a summary of those out to everybody that's joined the panel today. So we just want to thank you again for your time. Thank you for all the attendees and their time. And of course, just a reminder to join the Institute of Hospitality. If you're not currently a member, go on to the instituteofhospitality.org website. Thank you, everybody. Good luck with reopening, and see you all soon. Thanks again.
Thank you so
Thanks all.